Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Mojito Movement. And I am buzzing for today's episode. I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Zach, and I'll get you to introduce yourself soon. But firstly, we always cheers the Mojito. I believe you're rocking a beer. I've gone all
Yeah.
out at 8 a.m. So cheers to that.
Cheers, buddy.
Um,
Well, this is a lemon bintang. Couldn't find a mojito in Bali, but this is
that
what
is
we've got. The best of the
that
best.
is Absolutely. We've gone global. We've spoken to people in the States previously, but we're now reaching the other sides of the globe. What time is it in Bali? Because it's 8 a.m. here and I'm about to start drinking.
Yeah, well, you're gonna now. We were speaking about you having 2 shots of alcohol as pre-workout for you to get into the gym, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to set up a great session.
Mate, yeah. You should be setting up some content as well with that, for sure.
Yeah, mate, I'll be hitting some PBs on the basis that I'll have that drunk confidence.
Yes, 100%. No, it's 3 p.m. here.
Okay, much more acceptable. I am definitely bringing the IFS vibes at the moment on the basis that I'm starting my day early doors with what actually was meant to be a weak mojito, but it tastes quite strong.
Mate, I was sober once during IFS.
No, I mean I think this is only the second time that I've seen you not absolutely shit-faced.
I'm pretty sure I had the crown of being the most shit-faced person over there. It was 8 a.m. coming back whilst everyone is just coming back from the beach dip in the morning after having a good night's rest, ready to tackle the lectures ahead of the day. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was between you and Joey. Joey came back after the first night with no shoes.
That's true.
No, one shoe.
Yeah, I think Joey and Sean, both Joey and Sean.
Yeah.
But,
Mate, it was fun times. It was fun times. This is very nostalgic for me because it's where the idea for the podcast was created, and you were one of the people that I shared many a great chat with at the time over a mojito, and here we are recreating those beautiful moments.
I love it, mate. I love it.
And that is definitely stronger than I intended it to be. So this is gonna be good. So before we dig into it, introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are and where they can find you.
Okay, my name is Zach. I am an online fitness coach, predominantly helping women and females lose stubborn belly fat, but I also coach a good amount of men too. My importance or my focus is more on the mental side of things. So obviously when we're trying to lose weight, when we're trying to achieve body related goals, there's a lot of potholes that we can fall into. There's things like getting a bit too obsessive over the wrong things, body image, body dysmorphia, struggles with food. And that's essentially what it is that I like to work on, because it's things that I've struggled with myself. So online fitness coach, generally quite sporty, likes to think he's funny, but maybe not so much, depends on the person that you speak to. And currently living in Bali, ready to come back to the UK in a couple of weeks. That's it.
Hello. Sweet. When are you back in the UK?
In 2 weeks, fella. But I'm only going to be there for a few weeks, and then I'm actually thinking of going back home, which is France. So I used to live in the south of France for 7 years, and I might just go back there just to, just want to revisit a bit of childhood. My self-growth journey, or one of those things.
Love it, mate. I mean, it's worth it. I mean, anywhere is better than the UK, to be honest. So you're not missing much. Although the forecast for next week looks pretty decent on the weather front, so you might be timing it just right for some good weather whilst you're back.
Well, hopefully, the goal is to come back and grab myself in a bit of shitty weather. So if it's sunny, then it's going to ruin my plans, mate. But
I'm sure it will deliver. And before we dig head first into everything, just let everybody know where they can find you on socials, what your handles are, and so they can go and give you a follow if they don't already.
So I've just started a YouTube channel, which is Zach Kieran, and I'm going to be posting a lot of long form content, just sharing my journey, trying to help people achieve body related goals whilst also managing and becoming the best version of themselves mentally too. Always been my goal. And on Instagram, that's obviously the same thing that I try and do on there, just with a bit of short form reels and stuff like that. I like to have fun with it. My Instagram handle is Zach_Kieran. If you don't know, fucking get to know.
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
Listen to me speak. If you don't like what I say, then obviously you don't need to do any of that. But
I'm sure if they're here and they're listening to me, there's every possibility they're going to enjoy and appreciate what you've got to say, because let's face it, I say cunt a lot, and I put out some pretty strong content, and I would say that we echo similar viewpoints, and you deliver things probably in a slightly less sweary manner.
Okay. I don't know about that. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll have to have like a little tally going of who swears the most on this episode to determine whether or not
we'll drink every time that we do.
Fuck yeah. I'll be on to like my second and third mojito if we drink every time, I swear.
You'll be on the floor, mate. I'm gonna have to wrap up the podcast for you.
Indeed. So what I want to dig into, the big reason why I got you on here, I absolutely love your entire message around helping people strive for body composition goals without falling into the pitfalls of creating or worsening things like relationships with food, body dysmorphia. And a big factor for wanting to get you on here is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I am going to caveat this on the basis that it's globally recognized that it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but in the UK we tend to focus on men's mental health in November. So there may be some people listening going, wait a minute, isn't that November? In the UK, yes, we do raise awareness again in November, but globally it's commonly accepted that June is Men's Mental Health Month. And the reason why I wanted to get you on is because you speak so candidly and so openly about your own battles with body dysmorphia, with your relationship with food and disordered eating. And I think it's so important to get these perspectives and have these conversations and to normalize them, because as we were saying off air before we came on, I had a video that's gone viral around men's mental health, and there seems to be a portion of people, I can't honestly say whether it's a large portion or a small portion, but there is a portion of people who seem to think that there are certain mental health illnesses which only affect women, which probably affect far more men than we realize, that just don't get spoken about, and it feeds into this stigma that's placed on men's mental health. And the stiff upper lip, and in America they always say rub some dirt on it. Here in the UK we normally tell people to man up and to get on with it. And there are a lot of conditions out there, and a lot of symptoms or mental health illnesses that don't discriminate the gender that they affect, but ultimately only get recognition of the fact that they affect women. And disordered eating disorders is a massive part of that. So is body dysmorphia and body image issues. So a big part of wanting to get you on is because I know you speak so passionately about it because of your own experiences. And I think it's so important for people to hear that not only can this affect guys, and not only does this affect guys, but also to hear somebody who's lived it, experienced it, and come out the other side, and how you help people with that. I think it's a vital message to bring comfort and support to those suffering, but also raise awareness to those who may not be aware that this is actually, it's a very fucking real thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the angle that we're going to go at for today. So I think a good place to start would probably be to take everybody back to the start of your journey. Like, talk us through how you got to where you are now and how you help people, because I think by sharing your story will help people to really understand what's led to it, but your own experiences and how these subjects and these topics are so important for us to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. The first thing that I would want to say to anyone, and I think it's because I just see it so much, and I'm just going to base it off my own journey. We're all so busy focusing on who has it harder, men, women, what struggles that we have, what quote unquote illnesses that we have around mental health. And a lot of the times when I was in the deepest and darkest of my moments, playing this game that everyone seems to want to play so heavily as to who has it harder or what illness is worse, just puts you further away from the driver's seat and makes you feel so far out of control for you to be able to make your own version of happy, for you to be able to sort yourself out. And for someone that I believe, I really am so grateful for how hard I challenged myself and worked through some of the struggles that I had. None of that was great, was thanks to shifts in society and the way that men were viewed. None of that was just shift in any of these things. It was actually me getting down, shutting out all the fucking noise, and actually getting to work on myself. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times we can get so hopped up on who has it harder or what illnesses that we have, that I just think, fuck that. You don't have an illness. You're not damaged, because that is just something that you can actually hide behind as opposed to actually work through. For me, I prefer, you've been given one hell of an opportunity for you to be able to meet yourself at a deeper level, challenge yourself so that you can become the strongest version of yourself that you and society has ever seen. And right now, every time that you start looking at who has it harder or why you have it so hard, you are victimizing you're victimizing yourself against something that has been actually given to you for you to be able to make the world a better place. And I genuinely believe that. And I think so many people, when they say that I'm struggling harder than you, no, you haven't. You've been given one hell of an opportunity then for you to be able to become a stronger person. And right now you're wasting it by trying to battle online as to who has it harder.
Yeah, and I think there's so much power in what you've just said there, in terms of, if you get caught up in who has it worse, if you get caught up in the debate of my trauma, my experience is worse than yours, what you end up doing is you cling on to the root cause of why you're struggling, why you're suffering, why you're in a period of mental ill health. And you don't create the space to move forward from it. You don't create the space to improve the situation, because all you're trying to do is compete. And something people always need to understand is, it doesn't matter what somebody else's situation looks like from the outside. Their reality is their reality. So if somebody is going through what they think is the hardest thing in the world for them, and it's putting them in a position where they're feeling suicidal, like they don't want to be here, it doesn't matter how trivial you think their trigger is. To them, it's the worst thing in the world. And if you get caught up in this debate of my trauma is worse than yours, my situation is worse than yours, my trigger is worse than yours, like I said, you'll never move past your own, but you also end up pushing other people further into a mess as well, because you invalidate why they're feeling the way that they feel. Had a great podcast episode with Paul Moore, and one of the things that he raised, which is very similar to the points that you raised there, is, whilst it's great, it's so important to raise awareness, it's so important to have these conversations, but actually you need to go beyond the conversation. It's not about just talking. You have to take action. You have to recognize the situation you're in and take serious positive action to move out of it, because otherwise, if all you ever do is talk, you never move forwards, and you end up in that situation, like you said, where you miss an opportunity to grow as an individual, but also to bring positive impact on other people. The reason why I do podcasts, and a lot of them are about mental health, is because, as I've said on previous episodes, I've had, fortunately, I should probably say, failed suicide attempts in the past, where I've struggled with my mental health. For me, it's important to raise awareness to the fact that actually, even when you're in that moment, you can still come out the other side, and you can still achieve incredible things, and use that experience as a driver for success,
100%.
rather than a situation that defines you and shackles you to never be able to move forward from it. So I absolutely loved what you said there. It was fucking incredible. So yeah, but do carry on. I just hijacked you for a moment.
No, of course. No, I think if you are raising awareness and if you're speaking about the problem, then it's amazing. But every time that you raise awareness and speak about the problem without also matching that with one actionable thing that you can go and do yourself, then that just means that you're sat there procrastinating every time you speak about it, because you're actually speaking about it when you know you should be doing something else. Raising awareness for these kind of problems are so important in today's society, but that's exactly what everyone is doing through podcasts, through trying to be as open as they can with their own journey. And at one point, you need to be able to realize that you have to match that with taking action, with challenging yourself, with actually sitting down and looking at you, taking responsibility for parts and areas that you can actually control and that you can move forward with. And that's the harder thing most people tend to love to skip out on, because it's easier to be able to go onto social media and say who has it worse. And
and again, I think to give reassurance to anyone listening, because again, it sounds really daunting when you say talking is only part of it, raising awareness is only part of it, the key is taking action. And that is the bit that most people struggle with, because again, when you are really battling mental health, taking action is it can feel damn near impossible. Or taking positive action, I should say, because again, and we'll come on to the statistics around suicide rates and stuff, particularly with regards to men, shortly, I'm sure. But taking positive action is where a lot of people struggle. But one thing that we can definitely encourage that will hopefully make it feel much easier is that action doesn't need to be significant. It's the next positive action that you can take that starts you on your journey to recovery. You don't have to sit there and go, I'm in a really bad place with my mental health. I'm feeling like it would be better off if I wasn't here. I'm really struggling. I've had conversations. It's not really helping. You don't have to go, from there and the next action be, I am now much better. Like that's not what it is. It's not a case of like fixing yourself in that next one action. It's about recognizing the very first thing that you can do that will start a positive shift in momentum, so that you can continue to work on and improve and get better. And I'm sure you'll speak about it in terms of your own journey, but the progress that you've made would not have been an overnight flick of the switch. Suddenly I've gone from being in this place to now I'm in this really positive headspace. It would have been a really long, very difficult, but very conscious effort to get a little bit better day by day until you bring yourself into a position where you feel in much more control. You feel much happier. You've created better behaviors, better routines, and better habits, and you're creating a life that fulfills you rather than getting drawn into one that perhaps feels suffocating.
For sure. I think when I was in lockdown and when I was at the hardest or the darker moments, getting out of bed before 2 p.m. was my biggest struggle. Trying to get my socks on and trying to actually wear something that wasn't just what I would wear to bed was a struggle. And even trying to step foot in the gym once that week was the biggest struggle that I had. And that was when nothing else was going on. So when you talk about mental health and when you talk about you being unable to take action during that, it really is a disability of some sort. But the funny thing is, it is a disability, but the only person that can actually help you get able is yourself.
Yeah.
Now, there's a very big difference with your body working against you and you working against you. When your body's working against you, it means that you have things like a chemical imbalance. Your body's nervous system is not balanced. But when you're working against you, it means that you're actively allowing yourself to disrespect yourself in many different ways. And that's what I was focusing on, or that's what I believe most people don't focus on, which is there are so many things that you can actively do and challenge for you to be able to start getting better at that point. And for me, it was about removing this idea that I needed to feel better. And it was about taking action, no matter how hard it was. So when I first started out, it was, I just need to get my socks on. I just need to get out of my room and I just need to get a liter of water in me. And then it was, I need to get outside and go for a 5-minute walk for some fresh air. And then it was, I need to actually go and speak to people. And then it started to become more about my journey of gym. Then it was, okay, I'm going to try and get myself into the gym. And actively rebuilding one by one, step by step from there allowed me direction. And it allowed me to stop focusing on just the fact that I felt so shit. Because whenever I focused on me feeling shit, I could not focus my energy on actually getting myself out of it.
Yeah, and I've used this analogy loads of times. I used it on the episode actually with Paul Morton. What you look for is what you see at the end of the day. So if you spend your time focusing on the negatives, focusing on the difficulties, focusing on the things that are bringing you down and making you feel like shit, that's all you're going to see. The analogy I always use is if you're in the car and you're playing the mini punch game or the yellow car game or a combination of the two, it's amazing how many times you see minis or variations of minis or yellow cars when you get to punch the person next to you. The same goes for when you buy a new car. You go and get a new car and you go, God, nobody's got one of these. This is fucking brilliant. You get in, you drive it off the forecourt, and within 10 minutes you've driven past like 10 of the same car and you're like, where have all these fucking come from? I thought I had the only one. And it's because what you look for is what you see. And if you spend the entirety of your time focusing on the negative, which I know is the easiest thing to do when you are struggling, and I don't want to kind of give this impression that I'm some kind of like higher authority that's able to not do this, because we all do it. But when you just channel all your energy into that, that is all you're going to experience. So one piece of advice I always give to myself when I've been struggling, I give to my clients if they're struggling, is it doesn't need to be a lot, and it ties into exactly what you said there. But if each day you can just do one thing that is going to be a positive, and it could be something really small, like you said, for you, it was just changing out of your pajamas, like putting socks on, getting out of bed before 2 p.m. Like, if you can just do one thing that day that you can recognize as a positive, and at the end of the day reflect back on that positive, you're going to feel better in general. And if you can create a daily habit of looking for the positives of that day, even if you only find one, that's better than finishing the day thinking that the entire day was shit. And these small subtle mindset shifts, in my opinion, lay the foundations for people being able to bring themselves out of dark situations. Because if you can slowly change your outlook for what you look for, invariably you'll change the way that you feel in general. And it will take time, and there's more to go alongside that, but it's probably the easiest first step that anyone who's struggling can take, is sit back at the end of each day and try and find at least one thing that was positive of that day. And it doesn't matter how small it is. If you can find a positive in that day, then it wasn't the worst day in the world.
Right. When I was at my hardest of times, I'm going to challenge you on that, actually, because
yeah,
when I was at my hardest of times, trying to look for the positives felt damn near impossible. And everyone that told me to focus on a positive was just triggering me even more, because it felt so out of my...
Yeah.
One thing that I actually did, and I agree with you, actually, I agree with you in terms of the human mind is always going to look for the negative, and it is our responsibility to look for the positive, and it will take time. But when we're at the darkest of times, what didn't help for me was actually trying to find a way to look for the positive, because again, you're trying to feel positive. When you're feeling so negative, it's actually harder to feel positive because it's so far out of your reach. And it's actually easier to be okay with feeling shit than it is to be feeling better.
Yeah.
And one thing that I would tell myself is stop asking. So I would literally be sat there and go, what am I trying to do here? Am I trying to feel better, or am I trying to be better? And the difference with being better is it's purely habit based. The difference with feeling better is it's purely just based off of emotion and your thoughts. And that's just so hard when you're in the darkest of your times to be able to try and unravel that it's actually easier for you to start off with looking at being better.
Yeah.
You could look at that as an paper and go, right, well, I can just try and tick off these habits as a checklist, and that will mean that I am being better. And then what I would actually say to a lot of my clients when they're in these positions, or even to myself, it's the thing that I would say is, actually, do you know what? You got to feel shit for a while. You got to learn how to feel shit whilst doing good, because right now you're feeling shit whilst not doing so good. When you feel shit and then when you do good, naturally your body chemistry is going to naturally change. Your brain chemistry is going to naturally change, because you're getting more and more evidence that you are someone who's capable and possible. Yeah. And then that's what's going to start challenging and changing your internal afterwards, is actually the way that I did things.
Yeah. And I love that. And again, I think just to kind of flesh out what I was saying in terms of, I completely agree. From a mindset perspective, the prospect of looking for a positive at the end of each day, or reflecting back for positives at the end of each day, can feel like a futile task for a lot of people. It's a task they don't even want to start, because they feel that there are no positives. The key to it is, completely as you said, is to do one thing each day that is going to be a positive. 5 minutes walk, getting yourself out of bed, having a shower. It doesn't matter how small the action is. Do one small thing each day that can be deemed as a positive. In time, you'll start to recognize it as a positive. Initially, most people who are in that really dark place, and again, speaking from my own experience when I've been battling suicidal thoughts and what have you, do you know what? Exactly as you said, if I was to sit back and try and objectively think of what's been positive today, I probably wouldn't find any. Even though there would be positives there, I probably wouldn't find them. And if I found them, I probably wouldn't count them as a positive, because of where my headspace was. I was in a place where I thought everything was fucking shit, and I didn't want to be here. So even if I found a list of positives, the answer to it would probably have been in that moment, so fucking what? Doesn't change a thing. Life's still shit. I'd be better off not here. But again, the way that I gradually brought myself out of these situations is exactly as you said. It's through action. It's through conscious action of doing things that make me feel better, even if for a second. And it compounds. The more you do it, the more you do enjoy it, the more it becomes a habit, the more you build your self-worth. A big thing for me that saved me the first time I really struggled with my mental health was training and playing football. It was forcing myself to get back into playing football. I'd gone for a really difficult like personal situation, which I won't dive into too much because I think it's probably an episode on its own. And then I was coping really well with it. I then tore my cruciate ligament and had 6 months of pretty much being like housebound on crutches with an immobilized leg, and that's when my mental health really fucking spiraled. And the thing that brought me out of it, it was fucking horrible. And the thing that really brought me out of it was the minute I was told by the doctors to start having rehab and obviously rehabbing the injury, it was going to physio every week that gradually brought me out of things, because I didn't want to go at first. I was like, what's the fucking point? This is shit. Like, just was in the worst place. I'd not long had a failed attempt at suicide. I was not in a good way. But I started going to physio because I had an appointment booked. I had like no choice but to go, as how I viewed it. And it took probably 3 weeks of seeing gradual progression for me to think, well, this physio is worth going to. And then that transitioned into, oh, I can go back to football training now. And then I started getting more social interaction. I started doing something I enjoyed. And suddenly, despite the fact that I was still not in a good place mentally, I ended up in a position where I was training once during the week and playing twice at weekends. So I had 3 things every week that I would just look forward to. And that's what I lived for. It's 3 positive things that I lived for. The time in between, I was still not in a good place. I still struggled, still woke up and didn't enjoy myself. But the thing that kept me going is I had these habits and these behaviors of things that made me feel good to look forward to. And then once I was back actually playing, I was like, I got back into the gym. I started training, and suddenly I added 3 days a week in the gym to my 3 days of football. And now I'm at a position where 6 out of 7 days, there is one thing each day that I can look forward to that makes me feel good, that I come out of afterwards and go, I'm glad I did that. Even if the rest of my day was shit and I was still struggling, I had these little moments each day that allowed me to just go, I'm excited about that. And again, it wasn't necessarily it's very easy to look back and retrospectively say, seek the positives and try and shift your mindset. But again, the easiest way to do that, as you said, is through action. And for me, that action was gradually increasing my exposure to something I enjoy. And it's amazing when you start to do that, how your self-worth improves, how your behaviors and your habits and your thought processes all change from a positive perspective. So again, I think anyone that is listening to this, if you are in a difficult position, yes, I completely echo the advice in terms of you reaching out for support, but also one of the simplest things that you can do is just look at one thing that you can do each day that is going to just leave you feeling slightly better. And I don't care how small it is. Like we've said, it could be putting socks on, it could be getting out of bed, it could be having a shower, but just do one thing and take a moment to actually be present and just enjoy that moment. It could be as simple as just drinking a coffee, sitting in silence, or listening to your favorite song and having a coffee, but just be present in that moment. It doesn't need to be a big grand gesture where you're like, I'm going to go and do this and feel fucking amazing. I'm going to go and give 100 quid to a homeless man and make myself feel like it. It doesn't need to be a grand gesture. It can be so simple, like just making a cup of tea. Something that you can do that you can go, I'm actually glad I did that. That can be the catalyst for recognizing and beginning to believe in yourself that you can bring yourself out of it. Because again, I think a lot of people get stuck in places of poor mental health because they don't feel like they either have the capacity or the capability to bring themselves out of it, or they worse still feel like there's no benefit to bringing themselves out of it. And I think sometimes it just takes that little moment where you can just do something that makes you feel a bit better, and you can suddenly think to yourself, well, actually, maybe I can do this. And the minute you start to question, maybe I can, in my opinion, it paves the way for you to make the change required. But it starts with action, like you said.
100%. It's so powerful that you found a way to be able to see your injury as a catalyst for you to start making more and more positive change. Like that was the knock-on effect that allowed for me to come into your life, and it was almost, and I had to.
The irony of it is that the catalyst, in a way, for my mental health being at its worst was the injury, tearing my cruciate ligament. Football was my escape when I was going through a really difficult time. It prevented me from really having any issues with my mental health while I was going through quite a horrific experience. And when that got taken away, it was like my entire world fucking imploded. And the irony of it is the thing that then brought me out of it was moving back towards something that, you know, I could have looked at negatively. I could have resented football for the rest of my life because, you know, it was an injury playing football that led me to be, you know, to my first failed attempt at suicide. And a lot of people would cling on to that and go, I'm never playing football again because the last time I played, I got this injury and it nearly killed me. But weirdly for me, it was the one thing that triggered the spiraling of my mental health was also the very same thing that triggered the recovery from it as well. And I think for a lot of people,
what was football to you? I'm curious, because if it had such a big hold on you and your mental health, what was it?
It was my escape. So I'm a goalkeeper. So for me, I found 90 minutes. I was playing twice a week, Saturdays and Sundays, and then I would play like 6-a-side during the week as well. But it was mostly the Saturday and the Sunday games where I did all of my rationalization of everything that was going on. Because again, when you're a goalkeeper, you get quite a lot of time to stand and think. So I would pretty much be having conversations almost out loud with myself, just running over the events of that week, the things that
I can so see every goalkeeper doing that because you get
mate. I am certain that a lot of the lads that I played football with over the years probably think I'm fucking mental because I would just be chatting away to myself. And what I loved about it is your primary focus is on the game, what's going on around you, but it just gives you enough space to think about things, to rationalize things, to put it into perspective in an environment where that isn't your primary focus. I always found the idea of counseling and stuff quite daunting because your primary focus is on the things that are causing you issues, which again, that is still very much something I'm very grateful for. I've had various forms of therapy and I really do view it very positively. But for me, one of the greatest forms was playing football on the basis that it gave me space to think and rationalize and put things into perspective without it being my primary focus.
Right.
I couldn't get upset and emotional because
that's why things like running and stuff is such a massive thing right now. Is just I've got some of my best mates fucking healing from breakups and stuff from just like training for a marathon or a triathlon, and you're like, is it the training? Is it the fact that you've put all of your focus into something else, so you're worrying about something more productive? Or actually, is it that you're actually passively, whilst running or whilst swimming or whilst doing anything, you're actually passively kind of internalizing and dealing with all of your crap as well? So it's like, it's
I think it's, I genuinely believe that sport activity has the capability to be like therapy. When people say the gym is my therapy, or football for me was my therapy, I always find it amusing when you get people who are clearly obviously not overly sporty or particularly active go, it's not the same. And you go, well, no, I know it's not the same. It's not a talking therapy. It's not where you sit down and you thrash out the root cause of why you feel the way you do and you try and put all these behavior patterns in place and challenging thought processes and all this kind of stuff that you get from therapy that are vital and very important. No, in that instance, no, it's not therapy. But for me, it was fucking a lifesaver because for 90 minutes I was in my own little world having a little chat with myself. I could think and say all the things that I wanted to think and say, and I could put things into perspective and box it away without it being too much of a heavy weight to focus on, because it wasn't my primary focus. My primary focus was getting in the way of the fucking round thing that people were twatting at me as hard as they could. The secondary focus was when I got 5 minutes peace, I could be like, hey, this what happened this week that made me feel like absolute shit. Is it as bad as I think?
Right. you've just created a space, whatever it is that you do. Most people invest all of their time and energy into this. It becomes like, if someone's struggling with mental health, something that they choose to become an escape can very quickly become an obsession. And my view on that is as long as it's getting you away from actually the dark thoughts of yourself, then any obsession that takes you away from that is a healthy one. And it can be seen as therapy, because it can take you into a pocket of space where you're no longer thinking about those dark thoughts, and it can give you a bit of clarity. It can give you a bit more energy, so that when you do have to face those dark thoughts again, you're not coming at from a place you're not coming at from someone who's just been fucking battered down by these negative thoughts again and again and again. And then you're like, no, I can't deal with you anymore. You're coming at it from a completely fresh new perspective. And
I think that on that point, I think the risk, what's the word I'm looking for? The risk, fuck it.
The risk of making it an obsession is that you can forever feel, the risk of making it an obsession is that you can forget what you're running away from.
Yeah, but if you become always too dependent on that,
right? But if you remind yourself as why you are using this obsession, if you remind yourself, right, I'm getting into football, or I'm doing all of these things because I need a bit of space away, I'm basically sharpening my sword so that when I get back onto the battlefield, I'm ready to fucking fight. And I think that's a really good way for you to be able to bring about a balance, whatever it is that you do, whether it be therapy, football, or anything, is go, no, there's still a fight that I need to show up for, because I can't run away from my negative thoughts and what I actually feel about myself. That will always haunt me no matter how hard I run away. But I can use a bit of time to actually just fucking take some time and not have to think about it for a little bit, so that when I get back to it, I've got a sharper sword, I've got a shield, and I'm ready to fight once again.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I think the advantage of perhaps utilizing things like sport or activity to, as part of the recovery process, as part of being able to rationalize and bring perspective and challenge thoughts in a lower focused environment than, say, talking therapies, and I covered this with Paul Mort as well a little bit, is the risk factor of a lot of therapy is it requires you to go back over old ground. You recover everything that's caused your triggers, so you run the risk of clinging on to the negatives too much, because you're forever going back and working over them. How did that make you feel? How did that make you feel? And you get stuck in this moment where the negative is defining you as a person, because you're putting so much into it. Whereas,
it reinforces you,
and it's not the same for everybody. Yeah, it reinforces it massively. And I'm not saying that this is the answer for everybody. Everybody is different. I really do appreciate the nuances from a mental health perspective. But from my own experience, my quickest recoveries from being in a place where I did not want to wake up the next day came from me doing things that made me feel better, gave me some space to be able to think about, rationalize, and put things into perspective, without putting too much focus onto the actual triggers for those emotions. Because I don't want to be defined by what I've been through. I don't want to be sat here and go, oh, do you know what, I've done, I've been in XYZ position, and it's all because of, what happened to me growing up, all because of what happened to me when I was 19 or 20. These things happened, and yes, they've made me obviously who I am, and they've influenced where my life has gone, but they do not define who I am, in a sense that I'm not shackled to them. They've changed my perception, they've changed my life experiences that I've had as a result, but for me it's just part of the journey. It's just something that's happened. And obviously, there was a big period of time where that wasn't the case, and I did very much allow it to define me, and that's why I didn't want to wake up in the morning. But if you can find these mechanisms, these coping methods, these healthy obsessions that you can put yourself into, you can start to shift your narrative, and your self-worth can become around what you're capable of, what you can achieve, how you can impact others. And it shifts away from this horrible thing happened to me and it defines me, to this horrible thing happened to me and it shaped how I now positively impact moving forwards. And I think that's something that I really want to tap into into this episode, is the fact that you, as we said at the start, you speak really openly about your own mental health journey. You speak really openly about your own body dysmorphia, about having broken relationships with food, disordered eating. And the beauty of it is that you've challenged these thought processes, you've challenged these habits, these behaviors, and the these periods of effective mental ill health, and you've not become consumed by it, you've not become defined by it, so that this is who you are. You are Zach that struggles with self-image, Zach that struggles with relationship with food, Zach that can't get out of bed by 2 o'clock. You're now, you've been able to tackle it, you've been able to move forwards, and you're now in a position where you empower and help others to do the same. And I think that's such a valuable conversation to have, because I think there is an element of people, particularly when they are struggling, who probably look at people like you and I, who have had our battles, had our challenges, and we've obviously come out the other side, and we try and help other people, who probably look at us and think, oh, it's all right for you. It's all right for you because you're a coach or whatever. And I think it's really important to share the story so that people can recognize that there's nothing special about you and I don't mean that horribly, but there's nothing special about either of us. We haven't done anything unique. We're not wired different to anyone else. We just took our challenges, we sat with them, we made peace with them, and we found positive ways to move forward to it, to enrich our lives rather than getting consumed by it and allowing it to dictate our everyday.
Yeah.
And that's something everybody can achieve.
Yeah. So when we're talking about body image, disordered food relationship, I'll go into the nitty gritty, because people, it's very easy to say you've got a disordered relationship with food, you struggle with body image. That's just all names. You don't know what actually that means. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Me, all of this stuff stems from quite a while back, but I used to always put a lot of pressure on myself in the way that I looked. I really wanted to be lean, and I wasn't very too confident in the way that I looked. Even from the ages of 14, 15, I was doing ab workouts in my room, trying to keep lean, trying to do weight loss programs. And I think it's because I had a lot of influence from society, my mum, friends, a lot from my mum, who I speak openly about. She struggled with quite a lot of mental health. And naturally, as a kid, you take those things on. But you speak to you the way that you start taking on these you start taking on the way that you see society working. So for me, it was when I was 14, 15, whenever I lost weight, I'd get more praise, not just from school, not just from the kids around me, not just from girls, but also from my mum. Mum would be like, this is amazing, brilliant. I grew up in I grew up in like near Monaco. So it was a very like prestigious, the way that you looked, your image was everything. And I think I just naturally started to gather a lot of pressure on having to look a certain way to get acceptance and validation.
Yeah.
That then offset into so many things. As I grew up, uni put so much pressure on myself to have to be lean, stick thin. I'd barely eat anything. And I got to a position where I was like 57 kg. And now I'm 75. So that was almost 20 kg that I had lost. And I was stick thin, and I was so lean, and I wasn't eating anything. And whenever I did, I'd be throwing it up. So I was bulimic for 6 years.
Yeah.
Felt terrible about myself. Didn't know how to deal with my emotions, mental health. I would always criticize myself. At that point, I wasn't feeling too good emotionally. So I'd always turn to food to make me feel better, food and alcohol. That just caused me to get gaining weight I didn't like. So then I'd just keep throwing up the food that I'd eat. So I'm quite vocal about this. I don't know whether or not there's any censors. You have a lot of fuck yous and cunts. I just speak about what my struggles were quite head on and quite face on.
Yeah, but I think that's so important. And it's so empowering, because again, just hearing you talk about it, it makes it real for so many people. One of the things we spoke about before we came on air was obviously the post that I put up, and the perception that eating disorders like bulimia and anorexia, the misconception within society is that those are mental health illnesses that only affect women. Men don't get bulimia. Men don't have eating disorders. Men don't have the same body image issues that women do. Men don't feel the same social pressure to look a particular way.
I can tell you now, I grew up hearing all of those, and that made me feel like I was such a heavy problem, because why the fuck was I getting something that only women should get? So whenever girls, women, or anyone is saying that it's only a one-sided struggle, you're not only just making it harder for yourself by victimizing yourself against this very big thing that you now have to deal with, you're actually now taking away from all the men who secretly struggle with it without even fucking knowing. Because there are so many out there. And when I was back in the day where I was really deeply struggling, I actually hid away even more from this problem because I thought it was a woman's problem. And then I actually didn't even had it because I would just overlook it completely.
Yeah, and this is why I'm so passionate about raising awareness around men's mental health, is that we're stigmatized in general about depression, anxiety, and the most commonly accepted manifestations of mental ill health. Men are always told, rub some dirt on it, man up, get on with it, it's not that bad, don't show emotion, it's a sign of weakness. So men don't talk in general. You then have this simple fact that there are conditions like bulimia that are, it's almost marketed at this point as something that only affects women. So you then end up in a situation exactly like you just described, where you have it, you are experiencing it, you are living it, but you're also there going, well, I can't have that because that only affects women. So what the fuck is wrong with me? And you internalize further and it pushes you further down. And this is why these conversations are so fucking important. It isn't a case of saying men's mental health is more important than anyone else, any other gender identity. It's a simple fact that at the moment, a large proportion, I was going to say 90%, but I don't know the exact percentage, and I don't want to fall into the trap of wielding figures that don't exist, but a large percentage of very common mental illnesses are very wrongly, it's not rightly or wrongly, it's just very wrongly assigned to particular gender groups and gender identities. And that just creates a worse situation because, as we said at the start, mental health doesn't discriminate. Mental health doesn't pick and choose who it affects. It affects anyone at any time. And when somebody says we're raising awareness for men's mental health, it isn't because we're devaluing anyone else's. It's because actually so many of the conditions that are commonly accepted as struggles for women are struggles for men, and nobody fucking knows about it.
Right.
So an entire demographic of people who suffer in silence are suffering in more silence because people don't even recognize that they're suffering with certain conditions.
I'm gonna be honest with you here, and I think it's not gonna go, I don't know if it's gonna go down too well because no one likes to hear it, but I think the fact that I was so silent and so on my own with that struggle was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, just because it actually allowed me to get to work with it. And a lot of people hide behind the fact that they have a problem or they have an illness. You don't. You've had a hard past, you've had some challenges, and you've just dealt with it in the way that you know how. That's it. That's all it is. And you might have a few genetic predispositions that's going to cause you to think in a certain way that might mean that you're more likely to get these things, sure. But at the end of the day, you've had a hard past, you've gone through some shit and you've dealt with it in the best way that you can. Calling it illnesses, calling it struggles, all of these things, just for me, would not have helped me if I were to look back at it. Now, if I were to hide behind the fact that I had an illness, I never knew I had an illness. I just knew I felt shit and I wanted to feel better. And if I had the capability of being able to hide behind an illness, which was, I've got now some mental health illness, or I've got body image, all of this, I would not have tried to get myself to feel better, because all I knew back then was I feel crap. Most of my thoughts are going into food or my body, and I don't want that. I want a better life for myself. And then I got to work. But if I was then given and told by so many different people that you've got this disorder, you've got that, you've got this illness, I'd just be so crippled by all of these things going, well, I'm fucked. I can't get out of this. And in all essence, I'm so happy that I struggled with those things at a time where it wasn't actually spoken about, so that I couldn't self-diagnose myself and hide behind it, because I just got to work. And I think what most men need is not a diagnosis to say that they've got a problem. It's just that men need to be put back in the driver's seat to know that they can get themselves out of the shit that they put themselves in. Men want to feel powerful. The reason that we've all had this notion, just rub some dirt on it back in the day, was because back then we had bigger fish to fry. We had actual physical challenges that men needed to attend to. Right now, in a virtual world where everything is so mental and emotional, men don't know where the fuck to start. Rubbing dirt on yourself is like no longer our challenge. We don't know where to start. Men want to feel powerful. So where the fuck can you allow a man to feel powerful? And in today's day and age, it's actually in his emotions. It's in mental, and it's in learning how to deal with your mental and your emotions. It's not just rubbing dirt on it. So the modern day man is someone who's so strong and rooted in how to deal with himself and his emotions. That's my view.
Yeah, and there's so much there that I 100% agree with. One question I have got, which I'll come back to in a second, but just before we go into that, I do think that the way that you view things is great. It is quite unique from that perspective, but it raises such an important point that being able to put labels and names to things should only be done in a way to bring an element of comfort in order to help people to know the best course of action to tackle it and bring yourself out of it. That's the benefit that comes from knowing that you've got bulimia, opens you up to knowing the avenues of support to help you get better.
100%.
The risk factor is when you assign a label, and we spoke about it earlier, there are a portion of people who view these labels as their definition.
Right.
And we see it in coaching all the time. When you take on a new client and you speak to them and go, by the way, I need to make you aware I've got X, Y, Z.
Right.
And it's typically things that won't actually impact their ability to get results, but in their head, they've been told that they have a situation. So they go, I have this. So therefore, is that going to be a problem? And you go, well, absolutely not. Oh, well, I thought it would be. And it's like,
really,
I
was going to say, it's a really good point that you've brought out there. Is the only reason that you would find a label is to find a solution. And the reason that you are finding a label and coming up with a label is so that you can then find a solution. It's not so that you can just find the label.
Yeah, we don't want to, from a men's mental health perspective, we don't want to raise awareness to the fact that men can suffer with all of these conditions that have previously been presumed only affect women, so that we create inaction and we disempower people. It's purely so that people can better understand a situation to find a solution, which brings me on to the question. So obviously at the time you feel that you were very fortunate about the fact that there was so much lacking knowledge and understanding around the subject, so you just recognized that you felt shit, tackled it head on to find a way to improve it. Do you feel like, upon reflection, now that you understand and that there are names and labels for what you went through, do you feel that helps you from a better understanding yourself? Do you feel that you almost pull some comfort from the fact that these things are being recognized, or do you still kind of feel like, actually, from your perspective, for you as an individual, the best course of action was not to get bogged down into what it is and more just to focus on how do I feel better?
So I want to just say,
big question, sorry.
No, 100%. I want to just say that for me to look at myself and get myself to feel better, I had to have one hell of an oh shit moment where I was at a hospital bed after having taken a concoction of drugs, alcohol, running away from myself through drugs, alcohol, food for such a long period of time, that I had an oh shit moment where I started getting chronic panic attacks during uni. I started getting 7 to 8 panic attacks a day, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even get out of my bed, and it was my nervous system was shot to bits. And I was in such a lucky position where lockdown happened 2 weeks after that, where I was forced into a scenario where I didn't need to see my friends. I didn't need to sustain a job. I didn't need to do uni. Literally, the world was on a global fucking strike. Had it not been, I would have still gone out and tried to run away through food, alcohol, all of it, and it would have just kept on getting worse. But I was forced into this scenario. So that was almost a privilege for me, where I had nothing else to do but to actually sit and be shown the chaos that was going on mentally and emotionally, physically, all of it. And it was almost like it was like genuinely, I genuinely sometimes see it as fake. So I understand that a lot of people who are in that challenge don't have the people still have to run jobs, people still have to run studies. A lot of people that are struggling with these things have to be able to still manage social life, a career. And To be honest, I think at that point, if I had to manage all of those things, that I would have 100% would have needed support, and I would have needed it to be said, and I would have needed someone else to be able to hold me accountable to working on those things. So
Yeah.
I think it would be silly for me to say, oh yeah, it was amazing that I didn't have any support and all of these. No, of course not. I just had the privilege of being able to work on it day and night.
Yeah.
And for people that don't have that privilege, I think the support is very necessary, and it allows you to make use of so many additional resources. When you speak about a problem, when you speak about a problem, you actually naturally start coming up with solutions around that problem.
Yeah.
So now there are so many more solutions, so much more insight, so many more studies on how it is that people can work through things like mental health and work through things like body image, eating disorders, because it's being spoken about on a more wide range.
Yeah, 100%. And I view it very much like it's like a car. If you've got something wrong with your car and you don't know what it is, you take it to the garage and they diagnose what the problem is. They plug it into diagnostics, they get it up on a ramp, they have a good look, and they go, this is what's wrong with the car.
Yeah.
And that is the diagnosis part of dealing with mental ill health, is you get under the bonnet, you work out what the problem is.
Well,
now in other, in the car analogy, the next thing you do is you fix the problem. Nobody ever gets a diagnosis from the car unless it's like a really old car and it's completely fucked, which is probably not a great analogy, so ignore that one. But typically you go, yeah, you've got a problem with your clutch, for example. You go, brilliant, you put a new clutch in, it fixes it.
Sure.
Now, there isn't a straightforward, you've got this is how you fix it when it comes to mental health, but the diagnosis part is important on the basis that it allows people to learn, well, what is the process for being able to tackle it.
1 million.
The risk factor, and again, coming back to the previous point, is there are a lot of people who, and again, this isn't a dig at anyone in particular, it's just a statement of fact. There are a lot of people that get reassurance from the diagnosis, but also feel overwhelmed from the diagnosis, because quite often they view it as, it's not a diagnosis and therefore something I can go and fix. They go, it's almost like a life sentence. They go, oh, I've got this.
Think about it. Someone tells you you've got body image disorder, you've got eating disorder, you're struggling with depression, mental health. Like, how on earth is that going to be the positive change that you're needing, or the positive kick that you're needing to go and make positive change? It's not. It's going to be the life sentence, because all of these things are such big things. And that's why I don't like to hold on too much to the label. Yeah. And even if we are calling it a label, it's not an illness. If you're going to call it a label, if you're going to call it by the label, then my personal opinion is you're not calling it an illness, because calling it an illness isn't helping anyone. The label is, but not illness. And if you say something like body image, and if everyone can say it openly, and then if they go, oh, he's got body image, okay, now he needs to go and work on this. Oh, he's got eating disorder, okay, he needs to work on this. Then that would be an easier place for people to work things through. But right now it's, oh, he's got depression, he's got anxiety, or he's got body image, he's got this. And so I know that I have a very different view on it. Yeah. This is from someone who has really managed to go from struggling with bulimia and body image and eating disorders, whatever we want to call it, to feeling so in control of his body and food and now his mind. And I think a lot of that just came down to me not coming, or at least I had the privilege of never having these big weighted names on myself. Yeah. All I had was I'm feeling shit. I'm struggling. Yeah. And but again, I think it actually highlights a bit of an issue that we've got within the space of, mental health in general. 100%. Men's mental health in particular is it's underfunded, understaffed, and there's not the level of support required. But the knock-on effect of that is it's quite easy now to get a diagnosis, and we share slightly different opinions. I think that diagnosis is important. I think certain labels in terms of, like, also mental health illness and stuff, I do think are
appropriate. The challenge that we have is that at the moment, the process pretty much follows the same trend in terms of people suffer, people struggle, they sort of refer into services via their GP or however they refer in. They get a diagnosis, but the ongoing support is where it falls down. So at the moment, people are taking their cars to the garage and they're going, "Yeah, your clutch is fucked," and they go, "Cool, how do I fix it?" And the garage is going, "We're a bit busy, mate. Can you come back?" And then they're just left going, "Okay, so I've got this thing, this illness, this diagnosis, this label." And because there isn't the support there, it then does become a definition of who they are. They become shackled to the diagnosis like it's a lifelong thing. And I'm a firm believer that no one is ever fully cured from suffering with mental ill health. I think, you know, once you've suffered, I do believe you're more susceptible to suffering again. However, the caveat that I always have with this is that if you've taken the time and the effort and you've done the work in the background, you can create an environment where even if you start to relapse, you know how to bring yourself out of it. I feel you can, once you've suffered, yes, you're more likely to perhaps experience it, but you're also more likely to recover quicker, is my personal view of things. From my own experience, the reason why I've hit rock bottom and been suicidal more than once is because, you know, I think it's something that will keep coming back. And maybe it's me as a person, maybe not everybody's the same, but I do believe that it's not something you're ever fully cured from, but you do learn how to manage it better and recover quicker. The problem we have at the moment is there's a lot of people getting, you know, diagnosis, which should be that should be a light bulb moment. It should be the moment where they feel empowered. I know what it is. I can understand it. Now I can get better. But instead, because perhaps the ongoing support isn't there, it's not the empowering statement that it should be. It's almost like a damning. It's like people are being told you've got a terminal illness. They go, you've got an eating disorder, you've got body dysmorphia, you've got whatever mental.
Like what you've said there is really interesting, which is, we're really good at coming up with a diagnosis, but then the follow-up support from that is where it falls off. Things like the NHS is coming out. It's the fucking cry for help. And the waiting list that you get put on when you get diagnosed for something like mental illness is crazy. And
well, in case in point being, I've referred into services before, and you get told that it's, you know, minimum wait time is 6 months to get triaged. That's not to start treatment. That's to be able to speak to somebody to determine the best course of treatment, and then it could be another 6 months. And they finish that initial conversation with you. Do you feel you've got everything you need to keep yourself safe in the meantime? Well, I'm not in a good place right now because I've reached out to your service, and you're telling me it's 6 months.
Okay. This is really good, by the way, because we're not just agreeing with each other on just random stuff. We've each got our own set of opinions because we've each struggled with this in a very different way, and we're just basically saying what's actually helped us. And I think it's good. So on that note, I am going to challenge one of the things that you said, if that's okay.
Yeah, mate, absolutely.
Because obviously, again, like you said, mental health is such a nuanced thing that we're all trying to get a grip on now, that we can only ever just share our own experiences and what we truly believe, and then be open to the fact that we may be, but things are going to change. But for me, if you say something like mental health is something that never really goes away, and it's something that you're always going to be struggling with, for me, in my head, that's now putting mental health as this big thing that is going to come and knock you down somewhere down the future. And the way that I view mental health is just, right, your mind is going to play tricks with you. Your mind is going to play games with you. It's its job. It's trying to keep you safe. In the modern day world, we still, the mind and the body still thinks that we're still 100, 200, 300 thousands of years ago, where it's still trying to keep you safe from bears and tigers. Its job is to think negative. Its pure job. The reason for you to be alive here is actually because your mind always looks at and filters through the negative first before the positive. The way that we latch on to the fact that means that we now struggle with something is not something that I want to be on board with, because then it means that I will always be struggling with a very normal thing that we have within us. I'd rather say, look, your mind is going to play tricks with you, as it loves to do. Some people are more prone to it than others. Some people have had, again, like we said, a harder childhood, a harder past. Some people have gone through harder environments when they're growing up. So therefore, their mind might be looking out for danger and trying to play tricks with them a lot more often.
Yeah.
At that point, that's not a problem. It's not mental health. It's nothing like that. It's just your body trying to keep you safe more than some others. And it just means that you have to be able to calm it down and tell it that everything is okay more often.
Yeah.
And when I see it that way, whenever I do go through something that's like a bit of a harder time mentally, my immediate response isn't, oh, I'm struggling again. Oh, I've been hit with this thing again. It's, okay, here he is again. My little inner voice telling me that I need to watch out. I need to, be safe. But I've got the strength to be able to calm it down. Oh, here he is again, telling me that life is a piece of shit. Life is coming down at me. Okay, no, that's okay. I've got the strength to be able to bring it down. And that's the only way I've been able to actually manage and overcome. And again, I don't even want to be a hypocrite. Overcome. It's not even overcome. It's just manage my own being, my own mind, my own mental health, is by actually seeing it that way. Because I've stopped putting labels on it. I've stopped seeing it as this big thing. And therefore I can't hide anymore. If I feel shit, I have to do something about it.
Yeah. And again, I think that does, just hearing you talk there, does sort of reinforce both the points that we've made. So again, from a mental health perspective, they view it as a spectrum. I want to say there's 5 parts to it, and I probably should, having just recently qualified as a mental health first aider, should probably remember the actual stages. But it's basically it goes from green to red, and you've got like no symptoms, not experiencing any symptoms, to minor presented symptoms, coping fine. Injured, they then call it, which is kind of like orange, which is like you're presenting symptoms that could escalate or you could revert back to, and then there's you're in crisis. And this, and I think viewing it as a spectrum, whether you like to put a label on it or not, I think each person's going to be guided by their own views on that, on the simple fact that we don't want to create unnecessary weight. We don't want to put labels to things for people that feel uncomfortable with having labels where they feel it consumes them. But at the same time, if we view mental health in general as a spectrum, most people are going to spend the majority of their time in the first two sectors, where you've either got no symptoms whatsoever, or there might be some things that are troubling you, but you're in perfect control of how to manage them. It's not affecting your everyday life.
Sure.
I do think those who have perhaps been in the injured and the crisis points will probably find that they fluctuate a little bit between some symptoms and the injured bit a little bit more than others. And it's again, everybody will be different. I know from my experiences, I probably do a little bit, because it does, when I'm not in a great headspace, it does create a bit of additional anxiety, because I don't want to end up in crisis. I don't want to end up back there. The good thing is having been in crisis on more than one occasion, I've now learned to recognize the signs quicker. And I've also learned coping mechanisms and strategies and things that I can do, actions that I can take that actually move me the opposite, the other way along the spectrum. I don't get to, yellow and orange and go, fuck, there's only one direction I'm heading. I get to yellow and orange and I go, whoa, we're going back that way. We're going back where we came. Like, we're getting ourselves back to green, because I know how to handle it. So that's kind of what I meant in terms of, I don't think anyone's ever completely cured, but I do think those who have suffered significantly and come through it become more resilient, but also more aware, more self-aware. You recognize some of the triggers and you go, oh, I know this from before. I'm going to do this time.
100%. Yeah.
But I think this is why these conversations are so important. It's not a competition. It's not a dick swinging contest. It's not your way of thinking is right, my way is wrong, or vice versa. I think it's so important to have these conversations because, and we said we would touch upon it, I think now is a great time, is when you look at men's mental health, we've already highlighted the fact there's a number of conditions which are commonly accepted as being gender defined, which affect everybody, which creates more stigma, makes it more difficult. The most alarming statistics we've got at the moment is when you look at that crisis point that I just spoke about, when you look at suicide rates, 78% globally of all suicides are men. The biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. And depending on where you are in the world, men are up to 4 times more likely to take their own life. I also saw a statistic, and I need to fact check this one, so if it's not completely correct, don't fucking shoot me on it, but I saw a statistic that suggested like gay and bisexual men are up to 70% more likely to commit suicide as well. And when you see those damning statistics, it's very alarming. And it's not to say that men are the only people that suffer with mental health, men are the only people that commit suicide from it, but I think just the conversations that we've had and the fact that there are big gaps in how society supports and empowers people to get better are contributing to these numbers. And I think that it's why it's so important to have these conversations, not as a pity party, not as a let's give people a label, define it, and shackle you to it so you can't move forwards, but actually let's have conversations. Let's understand all of the different ways that we struggle, all of the different ways that we're affected as men with our mental health, so that we can come up with solutions. Because you said it yourself, as men, we are hardwired to try and problem solve, to overcome, to we're always, historically through the evolution of man, it's been the men that do the dangerous shit. It's the men that do the traditionally do the hard work. We do the heavy lifting.
We're here to solve problems. We're here to protect.
Yeah,
and that's
and right now the problems that we need to solve are the ones that we're struggling with ourselves, and the things we need to protect most are ourselves as men. And these conversations pave the way, providing they're used appropriately, like we said, to help people to map out what's my next step. Rather than I don't want anyone to feel defined by a diagnosis and view it as a terminal illness. It isn't. You and I are case in point. We've taken slightly different approaches to it, but we're case in point that you can be at crisis point. And you can come out of it. Not only can you come out of it, you can better it, you can improve it, and you can take those experiences and you can help others do the same. Not everybody that suffers with mental health is going to want to go on to coach others to help, but we can all get to where you and I are, where you've made peace with it and it doesn't define you negatively.
Well, the commonality between you and I and what we've gone through and how we've overcome it is we actually started challenging ourselves to take action. You came up with a step-by-step process to start going to rehab, to then start playing again, to then start doing new things, to then start talking about it, to then you started building upon it. And I think where most men struggle today is because the only thing that they're being told on social media is that it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to have this problem. And then for men who want to feel powerful, strong, confident, it's not that's going to make them feel powerful, strong, confident. It's not feeling heard. It's taking action. And it's in their confidence and being able to know that they can take action. It's in their ability to be able to know, do you know what? I can fucking sort this out. I can overcome my own battles. I can overcome my own struggles. And I think telling constantly men to feel okay is just disempowering them even more, which is taking them away from the very thing they want, which is to feel strong and confident and to feel like they can protect. And I just think,
and again, I was going to say on that point,
the way to go about women's mental health and struggles and body image is so different than the way to go about a man's body image and struggles and mental health, because we're two completely different beings with different purposes in life, and you can't overstep that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it is nuanced based on a number of different factors. And again, picking up on the points that you made there in terms of the statement, it's okay not to be okay. I love that statement, in that men do need to realize that if you are struggling, it is normal. It is okay. The trouble is it falls into what we said before. If everything stops at that point, it doesn't do any help. We don't want to create comfort in the madness so that you stay. You don't want to live in that place. You don't want to get stuck in that place of mental ill health. So the notion of
go on. Sorry, mate.
I was going to say, so the notion of just saying to somebody it's okay to feel like that is a dangerous statement. Yes, it is normal and it is absolutely fine, and you don't need to feel broken. You don't need to feel like less of a man if you're struggling. But
swap out it's okay not to be okay and put in it's necessary not to be okay. Then you've now come up with a reason to not be okay and a solution for it. But whenever like you said, I think that's fantastic, where you said if it stops and ends there, that's where the problem comes, is when you go, it's okay not to be okay. Here you go, don't be okay, enjoy your life. And I think at that point, you're left powerless. You're left with more trouble. You're left feeling not okay without any tools to know how the hell to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
And at that point,
and what we want is we want to empower men to people in general. It's not not just men. Mental health affects everybody. We want to empower everybody, but specifically given the month that we're in and the statistics that we just discussed, we want to empower men to feel safe enough to say, hey, look, hand up, I am not doing okay, I'm struggling. And I think this is where it's okay not to be okay is wrong. The statement should be, it's okay to admit you're not okay. Because I think in admitting you're not okay, you are asking for you're not saying I'm okay with not being okay. What you're saying is, I'm okay saying I'm not okay. I'm asking for help. I'm letting you know, like, it's acceptable to say you're not doing okay. It's not acceptable to accept not being okay, in my opinion. And that's the definition between it. It should never be okay to not be okay, because nobody should be living in a mental prison. Nobody should be feeling like they have no self-worth, like the world is a better place without them. Nobody should be feeling so much pressure and inadequacy in their own life that they feel like their only option is to become another statistic, to become part of the 78%, or if again the 22% if you're any other gender. We want to encourage people to feel comfortable with saying, I'm not doing good. And the way that we do that is we don't just say to people, put your hand up. What we show people that actually by putting your hand up, there is a path to a solution. And that's what I'm trying to bring about from having these conversations, is highlighting to men in particular that saying you're not okay isn't the answer to your problems. It's the start of your journey. It's the ability to get the help to move forwards. And if we can shift the narrative away from, I absolutely love the brand Boys Get Sad too. I think their fucking quality, their clothing's really great. It's a great statement.
Got my favorite T-shirt is Boys Get Sad too. I'm walking around in Bali and I get so many people taking photos of it. It's funny.
Yeah, I absolutely fucking love it. I do think that the statement needs to be, that falls almost into the category of it's okay not to be okay. It's like, they do. We don't want to just recognize these things exist. We want to create an environment where men can pragmatically make steps forwards. And that step one is raise awareness, but I think we're getting to a point now where step two needs to come into play, where it's not an awareness thing.
Well, I also think that's why when we put so much effort into help and support, a lot of the mental health struggles isn't because there isn't support out there. It's also because people don't reach out. The majority of the people that are struggling is because they have not reached out. It's not because there isn't a lot of support, it's because they don't want to reach out. So when we keep offering more and more support while saying it's okay to not to be okay, it's again disempowering the men, and it's again showing them that there's a solution outside of themselves. And for me, I think in today's day and age, so this is what I believe strongly, and it's actually what has helped me. When you realize, and I love that what you said there was, when you realize that you're not okay, you then have just leveled up to the next level of the game, which is now you need to learn how to fucking be okay be okay. You need to learn how to make yourself okay. And let's call it, I used to love video games as a kid, so I always come up with a little leveling system. If you've got level 1 to 5, level 1 is you're living, level 2 is, oh shit, I've got a problem and I'm not okay. Right? If you want to complete the game, and if you want to complete to level 5, then you have to go and play level 3, which is then you learning how to be okay. And the only way that you level up to level 3 is when level 2 tells you that you're ready by sending you a whole lot of shit your way. And I think where a lot of men struggle is they sit at level 2 when they should be leveling up to level 3. And that's where the mental health is I'm now ready to level up, but I'm not willing to do the next thing that I need to do. And for most men, I don't think it's a help thing. I don't think it's a support thing. I think it's a personal responsibility thing. which is most men aren't ready to open up about the fact that they're not okay, so that they can eventually start taking action towards getting themselves to feel better.
Yeah, and I think that's the rock and a hard place that we are between, is that a lot of that will be driven by stigma. A lot of it will be driven by insecurity, by fear, because of society's view. So the awareness becomes more important. But the trouble is as we said, the awareness is great for helping people recognize that there's a problem. But then too many people are becoming consumed and defined by the problem because there's not enough.
Well, men want to feel powerful.
There's not enough help for the solution.
If you cry for help, then you're not powerful. But I suppose, how can society make it so that you actually coming out and communicating and crying for help is actually one of the most powerful things that you can do? Every man would do it. If a man knew that coming out and struggling was powerful, every man would do it. But the reason that we don't is because we feel like it makes us feel weaker. And we're not meant to be weak. We're meant to protect. And I think in society right now, it's trying to realize and it's trying to show that every man who talks about this thing is powerful, coming from a place of power. And
coming from a place of strength in terms of, I know from my perspective, and I can only speak about my own experiences. I cannot speak for other people's experiences because I will never feel what another person feels. I did a great episode actually with Jarrett Reddick, the singer from Bowling for Soup, and we used the analogy that with 90% of illnesses, like the flu, for example, if somebody says they've got DMV or they've got the flu or they've got this or they've got that, we can all go, I know exactly how that feels. If somebody says they've got anxiety or depression, even when you've had it yourself, you don't know how that person feels. It's impossible to know. It manifests differently in each person. And I think I've completely lost my train of thought of where I was going with this, but we'll just fucking keep talking until something makes sense. But for me, it's like, because it affects everybody differently, we can only speak from our own experiences. And for me, my own experiences are quite simple. The work that I've done personally to get to the point that I'm at now, I feel at my strongest, if you like, at my most empowered and most powerful when I speak openly about my experiences. And I think this is what as men we need to challenge with other men, is that if you are struggling, do you know what the most single powerful step that you can take is owning it, is take control of the situation. Like you said, men like to be in control. They like to feel that they've got that power, that they are leading from the front. Well, do that with yourself. It's not a sign of weakness to say that you're struggling.
See it as the opportunity that it actually fucking is.
I
would not be who I am. Right. I would not be who I am today. We would not be fucking coaches had we not struggled with some of these things. And you're not owning up as a sign of weakness. You're not saying, oh, here I am damaged. You're saying, I've been given an opportunity to work through something so that I can become the strongest version of myself I've seen. And I want the world to. And the longer you hide away, your body's clever, your mind's clever. You will always be struggling to actually show up, and until you work on that.
Absolutely. And let's face it, if you're battling your own internal dialogue, you're battling your own mental health, you're battling your own thoughts, your own emotions constantly, in the simplest view of things, you will not be able to show up and be the best version of you at work. You will not be able to be the best version of you as a partner, as a father, as a brother. You just, as a friend, you cannot be the best version of you and give the very best of you to other people if you're not giving the best to yourself. And that's the message that I want to try and get out from a men's mental health perspective, in terms of, it's not the bullshit, it's okay not to be okay. It's what it actually is it's essential. It is fucking essential to recognize if you're struggling, to admit it, to own it, and to be able to move forward from it, because the payoff when you do, your life will improve, your own happiness will improve, your own mental resilience will improve. And how does that filter down? Well, you become better at work, you become better as a partner, as a father, a brother, a friend. All of these things improve. People will then, a lot of us, when we're struggling with mental health, it's because we feel like we've got no self-worth. The world's better off without us. If you can fucking beat that feeling, the world becomes the best fucking place, because you're in it, because you learn how to take, I have no self-worth, to I've got so much to fucking give.
Right. Right.
And that's
the way
where
that you,
this
the way
movement
that you
needs
come
to go.
to the conclusion, the way that you come to the conclusion that you have so much to fucking give is because you have come from a place of I actually have nothing. And when you come from a place of I have no self-worth and I am nothing and I have nothing, then that means you're either going to go one of two ways. You're going to jump off the cliff of one end, or you're going to turn back and go, fuck that. I am something. I need to find out who the hell I am. And then you get to work on that. And then at that point, you have so much confidence in who you are because you have come from feeling like you are nothing. So
and you also you don't take shit when you start to recognize your own self-worth. If you're around anybody who does not appreciate what you bring to the party, you fuck them off. You don't hang around with people that don't appreciate it because you've worked so fucking hard to appreciate it yourself. You improve the circle of people that you're around. You surround yourself with better people.
Naturally. I think one of the bigger parts of self-worth and self-confidence is you just naturally start gravitating towards people who actually respect yourself and your energy, because you don't want to be around people who don't. It's draining. It's a challenge, and you're not sat there going, why are you not respecting me? Why are you doing all of this? No, you're not doing that. You're just going, well, I'm not going to be too busy trying to please someone who's not pleased with me. I'd rather go and spend energy elsewhere, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. You break that cycle of why am I not good enough for this person, and you start looking at it and going, I don't want to be around you because you just don't appreciate what you've got. You don't see the value in me, so I don't want to be around you. And it's that this is how men take something like mental ill health and apply the traditional stereotype of men are strong, they're doers, they're fixers, they're hunter gatherers. Is you recognize your situation and you own the process of improving it to the point where you become powerful in that situation, and you suffer no fucking fools. It's and that's where this message needs to go. It needs to pivot from just a bit of a necessary initially borderline pity party of we need to make people realize that it's okay, like this is this you're not broken, it's not normal to feel the way that you are. We've got that now. We've done that bit.
I'm excited for the next phase, which is done fucking chatting about who has it worse, done chatting about it's okay not to be okay, and actually get into the phase where we actually start making men feel powerful and strong again. Because that's essentially what it
in a positive way. Again, it's not to be able to impart that power and sort of silence and suppress other people. It's to make the world a better fucking place. If we can all,
if you see a man exerting his power over someone else or something else in a way that's not power, that's insecurity. So if a man is over exerting his quote unquote power, he's just the most insecure person in the room. And so very strongly define what it means for a man to be powerful. It doesn't mean that he exerts it in any way. It means that he's so strong and rooted within himself. He's protecting himself, the people around him, his woman, all of these things, so that society can actually thrive as a whole. I don't think you should be exerting. So in that process, yes, you create very strong boundaries as to what the fuck it means for a man to be powerful. It doesn't mean for him to exert it. It just means it means for him to be so strongly rooted in himself.
And again, I think a man who is truly comfortable in himself and has true power in that purest of sense doesn't try and do it for self-benefit. You do it for the benefit of everybody else.
Right.
You do good to make others feel better, and as a result it makes you feel good. It might be selfless in essence, and borderline selfish in that you're doing these things to help other people improve because it makes you feel good. The reason why I'm a coach, selfish. I feel good helping other people feel good.
You've seen that episode from Friends, Joey. There's no selfless good deed. I genuinely believe that, because there is no selfless good deed, because everything that you're doing, your primary focus is to make sure that you survive. So even as a man, if you're protecting everyone else, have you seen that podcast, Naval and Chris Williamson?
No.
Okay, it's a must watch. Naval puts it very well. He's just a modern day philosopher, mate. He's brilliant. He says, everyone is just the best thing that a man can do with his time is to start learning how to protect his community, his clan, and learn how to be a provider and a protector, not just for the community, but it's because when he is protecting the community so well, he is bound to get the very two things he wants, which is power and status, which is the community coming back to him and telling them that he is enough, that he is someone who's worthy, that he is someone who they need. And that's just an essential trait that society needs.
Yeah.
And,
It's what we all want. I frequently reference the inner works of many comedians because they have a great way of articulating things. And there's a wonderful line from Tim Minchin in one of his little songs. It's a short song. It's called Second Encore, but the opening phrase is "All we ever want is affirmation," and it's true. Yeah. But the best way to get the positive affirmation that we're all after, is to bring positive impact on other people. Yeah. And I think this is a great place to begin to round things off, to be honest with you. It's a really good place to round things off because we've kind of gone full circle in that if we can help men to own their situation, to feel empowered to ask for help when they need it so that they can go on a journey of self-improvement, the affirmation that we all want, that feeling of somebody saying, "I'm glad you're here. You make my life better. You make me happy. You're a good person." All those things will naturally come because if we can be the best versions of ourselves, as I said before, everyone around us gets the best from us, and in return, we get the best from them. And if we don't get the best from somebody when we're given the best, it's a surefire sign that they need to, fuck off relatively fast.
Sure. Yeah, I think every man has a right to feel strong, confident, and powerful in his own masculinity and who he is. And I think the first place is to, if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling shit, locate and realize that you're feeling shit. Realize that you deserve to feel better than that. You deserve to feel better than the way that you feel now. A lot of men don't feel like they deserve to feel better than the way that they feel now. You deserve it. Yeah. And the way that
every single person deserves to feel happy, deserves to feel worthwhile.
And not only that, it's actually your duty to the world to feel the best that you can feel, because then you can actually create and produce what you need, what you can create and produce for the world. You can be of service to the world is when you are your happiest, your most powerful, your most confident.
Yeah.
And I think the first step to that is, if you're feeling shit, it's your duty, your responsibility, not only to yourself, but to the fucking world, to feel better. And if you don't know how to feel better, it's your next step to go and seek help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a really poignant place to round things off. I think that's perfectly put. But mate, this has been exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. We're notching up an hour and a half. I normally try and keep them to an hour, but we probably could have done about another 2 or 3 hours on this. I think it's just such an important subject. I think it needs the right attention. I think everything that's gone, as we've said on a number of times through this episode, there's been so many positives that have come from the movements to raise awareness, but I think now is the time to shift away from just an awareness campaign to an empowering campaign to promote that next step moving forwards and actually addressing and fixing the situation. And I think we've done our bit.
100%, mate. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for having me.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on. And I always do the same before we round off. Again, just let everybody know where they can find you on the social media if they don't follow you already. Yep. I'm sure after listening to you speak, people will be, if they don't follow, will be chomping at the bit to know where they can find you.
Sure. Instagram, Zach_Kieran. I tend to have a bit of fun on there. And then YouTube is also Zach Kieran. That's just me really trying to take you through how it is that I reached my body toning goals and became more confident in my body, whilst also becoming the strongest version I've seen mentally and emotionally too.
Man, absolutely love it. So yeah, if you don't follow him already, go and check him out. In the meantime, obviously, thank you for listening. I will be back with another episode very soon. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I mean, my mojito is gone, but cheers for coming on. But yeah, I will see you all on the next one. Thanks for listening.